Today is June 14th, 2023. We're interviewing for Ebenezer Baptist Church Oral History Project. And today our interviewee, our narrator, is Otistine White Nunnally Drake. We will begin our interview. We're at the Auburn Avenue Research Library. What is your full name, and would you spell it for me, please?
My full name is Otistine White Nunnally Drake. Otistine is spelled Otistine. White, White, Nunnally, Nunnally. Drake, Drake, Drake.
And where were you born, Miss Drake?
I was born in Atlanta, Georgia.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, in the area called 4th Ward.
And what is the name of your parents?
My father's name was Otis White. That is why I have part of his name. My mother's name was Perfinia Grant White.
And do you have any siblings?
Unfortunately, I am an only child.
And where did you attend school?
I attended Young Street Elementary School. That was grades 1 through 7th. After completing the 7th grade, I was promoted to the 8th grade through the 12th grade at David T. Howard High School in Atlanta, Georgia. From graduating from Howard High School, I attended Morris Brown College. I received a BS degree in elementary education, and later on, I attended Georgia State University, where I received a Master of Education degree.
Excellent. When did you start attending Ebenezer?
I started attending, I believe, at least 5 years old. My mother would take me to church with her, my mother and father, at the age of 5.
Do you remember what year that was?
That had to have been 1950.
Okay. What drew you and your family to this congregation?
Well, we lived in close proximity of the church, and I understand that my grandparents also attended Ebenezer, and my mother attended, and then after she was married to my father, then we all attended Ebenezer.
And your grandparents' name?
My grandparents' name, my grandfather was Edgar Grant, and my grandmother's name was Hattie Sims Grant.
Do you know if they knew someone in the congregation? Is that what drew them there, or do you know what attracted them to Ebenezer?
I just believe that they knew that the church was in close walking distance, although there were other churches on Auburn Avenue, Wheat Street Baptist Church. There was a Big Bethel Baptist Church, and of course Ebenezer. So they just decided to attend Ebenezer.
Okay, and that's Big Bethel AME or Big Bethel?
That is Big Bethel AME.
Okay, and do you remember who was the senior pastor when you joined?
When I joined Ebenezer, it was Reverend Martin Luther King Sr.
And do you know if he had a co-pastor at that time when you joined, or did the co-pastor start it later?
I believe the co-pastor started later.
Okay. And I, and so you became, when you joined, you were a full member there. Were you active in any of the ministries in Ebenezer?
Well, what may I say? When I joined when I was 9 years old, and that was April the 28th, 1954. And I was 9 years old. And I remember participating at an early age in the choirs for the youth. And I attended Sunday school religiously. That was a must every Sunday. And after Sunday school, then immediately go to church service, and then later on that evening you would have to attend Baptist Training Union. That was BYT, I think that's what it was. BTU, Baptist Training Union.
Okay. And do you remember when you got baptized? Were at Ebenezer?
Yes, that was in April of 1954, and the baptismal pool was in Heritage. Heritage, which is the original Ebenezer, in the basement of the church.
Okay. And do you remember who baptized you at that time?
Oh, I most certainly do. That was Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., Reverend King, which we so fondly called him Daddy King.
Well, that's excellent. What ministry stood out the most for you and your family involvement? I know you said you were involved in the music as a child. Were your parents also involved in the music ministry, or what were they involved in?
Well, I understand my mother at an early age, when she was a teenager, she, I understand, was in the choir, one of the choirs, and she had a love for music. And I know my father did not sing, and so he was just a worshiper.
Okay. And your participation, what organizations have you participated in? Is it primarily the choir as you grew? Did you remain in the choir? Or you branched out to some other things, or?
There were choirs that I was a member of. I was in the youth choir. Then I became a member of the M.L. King Choir, senior choir. From there, I joined up with a choir directed by Mrs. Laura English, which is called the Singing Sisters, which consists of all women. And I thoroughly enjoyed being in that choir.
And what was unique about the Singing Sisters?
Well, we were a group of women who had different voice ranges, and the music was, it was just a variety of music that we sang.
Okay. And when you, during the time that you joined or during your tenure at Ebenezer, were there any civil rights activities or social justice activities going on within the community or in the church?
Well, I can remember as far back as I believe I was 10 years old. And of course, there was, I would call it the inception of the civil rights movement back in 1955. And I remember my mother and I attending at that time what they called mass meetings, where we were informed about what was going on and some of the strategies that would be used in the bus boycott. And the meetings that we had attended were held at Wheat Street Baptist Church. At that time, that was Reverend William Holmes Borders who was the senior pastor. And those were some very trying times and very, very difficult times.
Would you care to expand on that a little? What do you mean? How were the times trying and difficult?
Well, we were going through a transition. And although I was, in 1955, I was 10 years old, and just listening to the adults, it seemed like they were just whispering among each other about what Dr. King Jr. was doing in Alabama and what part we would play in Atlanta in the desegregation of the buses. And it was just very, very trying days.
Well, Ebenezer Baptist Church is a symbol to the world as America's Freedom Church, which some of the things that you discussed. And what role does Ebenezer play as America's Freedom Church in voter education and voting rights?
I would say that Ebenezer is a church of all nations. And I think that Ebenezer has been built on a firm foundation during the civil rights movement, believing in equal rights and for all. And at Ebenezer presently, there are different ministries there that still try to follow the footsteps of this former civil rights leaders as trying to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and just have all kinds of programs that will help the community.
And I know that you have a program there that dealt with the voter souls to the polls. So it seems as though from your early growing, how would you say the time that you grew up until now, how has the church been involved in civil rights? Do you still see a continuation of that?
I see a continuation of that, the great leadership that we have due to our current pastor, Reverend Dr. Raphael G. Warnock, and I left out Senator Warnock, who is doing a wonderful job and just really helping the community, and not only the community, but the world. And we have come a long ways, and we still have a long way to go.
And what does it mean to be identified as America's Freedom Church?
I think it represents freedom for all. All are welcome. All problems are addressed. Freedom for all. America's Freedom Church. And I think that a lot of people look toward Ebenezer as the leader in freedom. They come to Ebenezer to get an answer. It's a church that shows leadership and for equal rights for all.
And so there are still visitors that are coming currently to Ebenezer as well, right?
Oh, yes. Since we have the technology, we have members from everywhere. You don't have to be present there to join the church. You can join virtually. And we have a wonderful pastor and pastors at Ebenezer to just open up and welcome all who want to join. When you come to Ebenezer, whether you're there physically or whether you are at home visiting, looking at the service, you are led to want to be a part of Ebenezer because you can see what Ebenezer is trying to do, not only locally, but worldwide.
And the Heritage Sanctuary, what it's a place of worship and it stands out. I know Ebenezer has had different location, but what stands out about the Heritage Sanctuary as a place of worship?
I feel that the spirit is there. Not only that, you come there as a person, you bring the spirit with you. But when you're a part of that church, you can really feel the spirit. When you visit Heritage Sanctuary, you just look around and you just think about all the history that has been made there. I remember when Dr. King Sr. was in the pulpit. It was so, just to hear him was so electrifying. When we knew that he was going to be in the pulpit, the church was packed to the capacity. I remember people standing around the walls of the church, and they placed folding chairs in the aisles of the church. The church was so packed. Just to hear that electrifying message that Dr. King Jr. delivered. And you felt so inspired once you leave that church. Not only when you enter, but when you have heard the message from, hearing a message from the man of God, you felt so inspired. And that's what I can remember about attending service there in Heritage Sanctuary.
Awesome. And the Sweet Auburn Avenue is another historic landmark in the area. What do you recall about the community where Ebenezer serves the people and is called the Fourth Ward or the Old Fourth Ward?
Well, as I said earlier, I grew up in the Fourth Ward. Now it is called Old Fourth Ward. But going up and down Auburn Avenue as a child, that is when you could see that the businesses were flourishing, and these were Black-owned businesses. And I would say that Auburn Avenue was the Black Wall Street of Atlanta.
Okay. And so Auburn Avenue was the Black Wall Street of Atlanta. That's awesome. And what is your fondest memory as a church member attending worship services in the Heritage Sanctuary until March 7th of 1999? Your fondest memory in the Heritage Sanctuary.
Well, there were so many events that happened in Heritage. I was baptized there. I was married there. I remember having, being on program there, Easter speeches as a child, fond memories of that, fond memories of having different programs, fond memories of homecoming, where all the members would gather in the basement of the church, where everyone would families would bring their own meals and share them with other members. And those were just happy times and times of people gathering together as one big happy family, church family.
And the centennial with Ebenezer Ebenezer celebrated the centennial church anniversary in March of 1986. What do you recall about that year-long celebration to commemorate the 100 years?
Well, so much happened uh, from those 100 years. It's just so much history there in Ebenezer. And from all of the things that we have gone through as a people, as not only that, but as a church family, just being a part of Atlanta and being a part of making history. So Ebenezer is still making history, not only 100 years, but it is still making history. We are moving forward.
And what do you recall about the crossing over celebration and worship service?
You're from from heritage, from heritage to horizon. It brings a new day. We look at heritage as our past, that was our history. And now going across the street to horizon, I think of a new day, a new era, a new beginning.
And I believe that it was led by children too, the ceremony. So is that like you said, it's a new beginning because you had the children up front leading across with the crossing over?
Yes, yes. We look to our young people as being our leaders of tomorrow. And this is where they get their Christian education and their background from people who are dedicated in working with them and training them in the church. This is where I think Ebenezer is striving to just have the best people in the church working with the children to prepare them for tomorrow's leaders.
And what is your favorite church life program over the years? Like, what is one of your favorite programs that the church has, one of your church life programs?
Well, again, as I said, there's so many things that you can be involved in different ministries. I love the musicals that Ebenezer is known for. The choirs, we just had magnificent singers, magnificent choirs. I love the concerts at Ebenezer. And just the church services. We used to have revivals. And I remember going to revival and hearing the different ministers that would come and give wonderful, thundering messages. So there are just a multiplicity of things that I cannot really elaborate on.
Or just narrow it down to one favorite thing, right?
I can't narrow it down because so much goes on at the church.
Right.
So many activities.
And what about, can you tell me a little about your first Sunday or your communion Sunday? Can you tell me how that is? What do you recall about the communion services on the first Sunday under Dr. Daddy King and or Pastor Roberts or any of the pastors? But how do you relate to the communion service or the first communion?
Well, so much has changed since those days. I remember going back to communion, which we would have on Sunday, first Sunday each month. In the evening, I think it was 7 o'clock service. And when it was time for communion, I remember all of the lights being put out, and it was just the deacons walking around serving the sacrament. And it was just a beautiful service. And of course, when urban renewal, I believe, came in, and people began to scatter, and they moved out away from the church, and it was just hard to get back to Sunday evening service. So now we are having our communion, our sacrament, given to us on the first Sunday on Sunday mornings. And if we have two services, then we also give that the first service, the communion, and the second service. But that was a change in the way that communion was served. And it was a beautiful ritual during those days at Heritage Sanctuary.
And could you tell me maybe one or two of those changes that took place? The difference in the ceremony? I know you said it's the day to the evening. Was there anything else that was different about the service, the communion service?
Not that I can think of at the moment, just coming back later, having it at night, and where now we have it in the morning on the first Sunday.
Okay. And you've told about a whole plethora of different things that happens, and there's so many things that you've experienced growing up as a child up until now, with Ebenezer, and having your grandparents to attend, and you just have a history with the church. And I know you may not be able to narrow it down, but is there any significant moments that stood out about Ebenezer from 1931 to present for you?
Well, there's so many different, as I've said before, just so many different changes. The history has been made at Ebenezer. I would think about the presidents who have spoken at Ebenezer, the funerals of our beloved leaders, and it was just, the church was just overwhelmed with grief when Mrs. Alberta King was murdered in the sanctuary, the assassination of Dr. King Jr., and just going to those funerals, and those were sad times. And history was made, and especially when you had presidents to attend the funerals of, especially the funeral of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and different celebrities. And when I look back over that era, I just couldn't imagine. When you walk in Heritage, you didn't realize the church was so small to accommodate all of those people. And it was just amazing to know that all of those people were packed into Ebenezer during those trying days, those sad days.
Do you recall any of the presidents or leader that attended doing any of this?
I remember President Obama. Mm-hmm. And I remember when he came to Ebenezer, he was not elected president, but he was there to solicit our vote. Mm-hmm. And that was wonderful, very electrifying. And President Biden, he came, and also, of course, I cannot forget Ambassador Andrew Young, a wonderful person. I have no brain.
Oh, that's
right
okay.
now.
I know, so many to try to recall.
So many.
Yeah.
Former mayor of Atlanta, Maynard Jackson, spoke
Mhm.
at different occasions, and John Lewis. Just so many
Yeah.
different people who have come and who've spoken and who've given such wonderful, inspiring messages.
And were you there in person when all the different people was there as well?
Yes, the last president that I heard was President Biden when he came.
Okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned Mama King and the tragedy that was there with her and some of the other two other members. Were you in attendance at church on that Sunday?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine who had attended, and she called me and told me about it, and it was horrific.
Right.
And it was very, very sad. And I must say that I received my first actually music training from Mama King when, of course, she was our choir director and organist, and she would work with the youth, and she was just a wonderful, lovely lady. I never shall forget her.
So she gave you music lessons as well?
Well, not music lessons, but when we would come to choir rehearsal,
okay.
and she would want to listen to our voices, and she'll tell us the range and what octave we are singing, and I just learned a lot from her.
Awesome. And since we're talking about first ladies, what other first lady in the church who you remember or may have influenced you or their ministry at Ebenezer?
Well, I can go back still to Mama King, which was quite a lady. Mrs. Roberts was a beautiful lady, very, very, very cordial. I remember her. Those two ladies are very outstanding in my mind.
Okay. So Mama King was traditionally with the music. What was Miss Roberts' ministry? Do you remember what her primary ministry was, or?
No, she was not in the music field, but she was just an inspiration and just a good teacher.
Okay.
Mentor.
Awesome. And are you a deacon, Miss Otistine?
I am a deaconess.
A deaconess?
It's different from a deacon.
Deacon. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And as deaconess, is that something that's new in the church, or was something added, or have you always had deaconess in the church?
Well, from my understanding, it really was originally years ago. It was known as the Mother's Board.
Oh, okay.
And when Reverend Roberts became our pastor, he changed it to deaconess. And most people thought that you have to be a wife of a deacon, but it's not so. So you have single ladies that's part of the deaconess board, and you are recommended as a member of the board, and that name is passed on to the minister, and then he will appoint you through the recommendations of a deaconess.
And after Reverend Roberts, then it was Reverend Warnock. Okay. And under Senior Pastor Senator Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, Ebenezer's storied history as an urban-based global ministry dedicated to individual growth and social transformation is expanding. What does this mean to you at this time?
Well, that is our purpose statement, and we are a global ministry which reaches out all over the world. And whatever we do, it is through. We can't do anything without Jesus Christ, our Savior, our Lord and Savior. So that is the first thing we have to think of, that we cannot do anything without without him, and we believe and trust in him. So we do extend our Christian base all over the world.
And when you hear beloved community discussed, what comes to mind?
Our beloved community. What comes to my mind is that you live in a community, or you be a part of that community, and you want to be of service to that community, and you want to help those in need in that community. So you want to be of service to those who are in need in that community, and to show that you care about the individuals who are a part of that community.
And how has Ebenezer been involved in helping the beloved community? Do you remember any of the programs, or anything?
Well, there are quite a number of ministries in Ebenezer that are still trying to do what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted everybody to do. And it was, first of all, to love, to show your love, and to help those who are in need, who are the least thought of. So they have many drives at Ebenezer, food drives and clothing drives, and just helping in any way that they can in the community.
Okay, so you're involved in caring for those that can't necessarily help themselves.
That's
so with
right.
poverty, hunger.
Yes,
and you talk about love and okay, awesome.
Still trying to feed the hungry and clothe the naked.
And what is how important, like right now we're recording your history with Ebenezer, how important is it for Ebenezer to archive and share the history of the Heritage Sanctuary and Horizon Sanctuary for the next generation?
History should never be destroyed, and such a wonderful, rich history that we have at Ebenezer. We want to pass that on to our youth, so that they know all about the struggles that Ebenezer has had, the days of Jim Crow, the days of discrimination. A race would be lost if they didn't know their history, and therefore our youth need to know our history. Nothing should be destroyed. Let them know that Ebenezer has a rich legacy, and hopefully that they can build on that and carry on and learn from it.
Great. And Ebenezer's Horizon Sanctuary is built to resemble an African hut, and there are different crosses that are there. How do you describe Horizon Sanctuary as a place of worship and where the congregation fellowships and worship together?
I love to come to service, to get that food that would carry me through the week, I feel. To be there with your fellow members, to just embrace them. There have been some who've been sick and who've come back, and you're so glad to see them. And it's just like a family gathering, but we're there for one purpose, and that is to praise and give honor to God. And so when you leave there uplifted in spirit, and it's a beautiful experience. The music, which is electrifying. Sometimes you can get a sermon through the music. We have a wonderful music department, and we have wonderful speakers. So when you leave there, you should be filled with the Spirit. And when you leave the worship service, you feel like, oh, I can conquer the world because I've had a word from God.
All right, amen. Okay, you're making me want to run out and get in.
We need to shout sometimes.
So what is Ebenezer's role in addressing issues such as racism, poverty, war, ending mass incarcerations, gun violence, health, equity, and unjust systems? You can just pick one if you want to, or how would you like any one of those topics if you want to elaborate one or two?
Racism, it still exists. Sometimes I wonder, are we going backwards? But we have to continue to fight for our rights. And I feel right now I am an advocate of what Senator Warnock is doing, and along with others who are fighting for equality. And that is what it's all about. God made us all. And I would hate to think that there would be division in heaven. But I know God wants us to love, what he said, love ye one another. And we cannot do this all by ourselves, working to make this a better world. I would love to have peace, just to see peace all over the world. And we've got to learn to love each other, to respect each other as God's children, as he would want us to be and to do.
And that's a great segue into some of the your mementos that you've brought here that's very historic. And you talk about racism and love, and would you share with us a little bit about your first teaching position? I believe you're a professional educator, are you not?
Well, I am an educator. I would like to think so. And I would like to think that I have made an impact on the children that have come my way, which I thoroughly enjoyed my career, my teaching career. But I would like to just say that I lived through the civil rights movement, the civil rights era. So I think I came prepared a little to whatever that I would have to meet. I think that I was in a way prepared to meet the challenges ahead. When I finished Morris Brown College, I applied for a teaching position in 2 school systems, and that was Atlanta Public School System and the DeKalb County School System. I heard from DeKalb County first, and I was called for an interview. I went to the personnel office, and I was interviewed by the director there, Mrs. Alice Ann Hamilton. I shall never forget, Mrs. Hamilton asked me a question. She said, and of course I was fresh out of college. She asked me, Miss White, what do you think about teaching white children? Well, I just had no idea that question was going to come up. And I would say, then I thought for a minute. I said, well, Mrs. Hamilton, I've always wanted to teach, and I never thought about the race of children, just my desire to teach. And so I remember her nodding her head. And maybe 2 weeks later, I received a letter saying that I had been assigned to a school. And the name of that school at the time was Leslie J. Steele School, which is on 2nd Avenue in DeKalb County. when I went for new teacher orientation, I met the new principal there. He was also, this was his first year there as principal, along with 5 other new teachers. So there were 6 of us in all. So he gave us a tour of the building and he asked us to come to his office. When we came to his office, he wanted to just hear from each one of us, our background. So after we had given him our grounds and everything, he told me, he said, well, Miss White, you may not know this, but you are the first Black teacher at this school. And I said, I am? He said, oh yes, did they not inform you about this in personnel? I said, no, I was not told this. And he said that you are. And if you meet up with any problems, I want you to feel free to come to me. And as he said, I know this is all new to you. And also, schools were being newly integrated in 1967. And I guess I was so young, I really was not even afraid. All I wanted to do was just work and teach. But knowing that I had grown up in the civil rights movement, I guess that gave me a way of being prepared or being strong. So I did meet up with some prejudices, but it didn't bother me. When we would have faculty meeting, there were some of my coworkers who would not sit with me. Some would not speak to me, but I just went on because I knew that God was on my side. And I felt that I was placed there for a reason. It just so happened that the room that was next door to me was a teacher who was very warm, and she welcomed me. And I was able to just form a good working relationship with her. And her name at the time was Pat Lonsford. I also formed a relationship with the custodians and the workers in the cafeteria, and they were so glad to see me. They said, oh, I'm so glad that you are here. And I was glad to know that they were surprised to see me there, but they welcomed me because I felt like I had someone to relate to. I had someone who looked like me, and they were very proud. And I was very, very blessed to know them. They were very, very nice, the custodians and the ladies in the cafeteria. And my parents were mostly receptive, except for one parent. And the principal came to me one day and told me, he said, I have something to say to you. Now don't, that I'm just saying this, I'm repeating what the parent said, that he did not want you to teach his child. And of course he used the N word. He said, I'm just repeating what he said. And I told him that I was not going to remove you from this class, because if I did that, Mrs. White, that meant that the other parents would hear the word and they would want their child to be removed from your room. So I told the parent he had the right to take his child out and to place him in another school, and that's what that parent did. So I did not have any other problems. I had a wonderful school year, and 2 years later, the school began to accept the first Black family to move into the neighborhood. And when that family came in, the neighborhood just went from all white to all Black. And it was a transition. You had thought that it was an epidemic because of the Black family that had moved in. So the faculty did not change much. It still remained when I left, when I retired. the faculty was at least 80% black, 20% white. But when I arrived, it was 100% white.
Okay. And so you were the first to integrate that school as a teacher.
As a teacher.
And during that time, how were teachers assigned by the educational system in Georgia? Were there lotteries, or you just apply like it is now? You just go to a school board and you apply, and you're reviewed, or were they certain lotteries to try to integrate the different schools?
There wasn't a lottery, but I think they were trying to meet a quota.
Okay.
During that time, because they knew that the Civil Rights Act had been passed. And I think they were just slow in integrating, and they needed to place black teachers somewhere. So I just assumed that I was one of the ones, and it was quite an experience. It really was.
And how long were you there at the school?
I stayed 34 years.
34 years.
I had an opportunity to go other places, to other schools, but I said children are children no matter where you go. And also, it was not far from me. I was looking also at transportation. It took me about maybe 10 minutes to get to work. And so I had no problem, and I enjoyed it. I saw a lot of changes. I saw a lot of principals come through. I think I had about 5 principals during my tenure there.
And you have a picture there, if you want to hold it up, that we can take a look at it.
This is my first class of students.
Mm-hmm. You can just turn it towards the camera if you'd like.
And it's faded and everything. These pictures are faded. These are my first little class of students.
Wow, that was very momentous time for you. And you said the school changed during that time, and you also have made an impact, it seemed like, on the students. Just recently, were you awarded anything from any of the students, or can you tell me about a student who came back to you? And you have a plaque here and also a picture. Can you tell us a little bit about that incident that you brought with you?
All right. Now, this was some years later, when the school had become a predominantly black student body. And I had an opportunity to teach this little student at the time. He was in the 2nd grade. And now this picture shows that I attended his 7th grade graduation. I taught him in 2nd grade. And this is a picture of Winfred. His name is Winfred Moody. And I'm standing there with him with his little 7th grade certificate. Now, after he had been promoted from the 7th grade, he went on to high school, and I had not heard from him since. So one day I was summoned to the office by the secretary. She said, Miss, I think I was Nunley at the time, Miss Nunley, you have a phone call. And I went to the office, and when I picked up the phone, it was a lady on the phone said, Miss Nunley, so yeah, I don't know if you remember me, but you taught my son, Winfred Moody. And I said, oh yes, I remember. She said, I just want to let you know that he is a senior at Morehouse. He's graduating. And it was some type of program they had that the students had to name a teacher who had an impact on their life. And she said that Winfrey recommended you and submitted your name in Who's Who. And I was floored. And I said, Mrs. Moody, I said, Winfred had high school teachers, college professors, and he remembers me, his 2nd grade teacher. She said, Mrs. Nama, you had an impact on him. And she said, and I thank you for the relationship that she and I had in working with him, because it takes parent and teachers, parent and teacher working together so that you can show that the child that you are interested, you care about them, and you want to see them excel. And of course, I was honored, and I received the plaque of Who's Who in American Education, and I was quite elated. And before then, by my faculty and staff, I was nominated as Teacher of the Year in I think it was one time it was 1987, and then also in 1993. And that was teachers from each school in DeKalb County that was given we received also a plaque and also a banquet, and the superintendent attended the banquet and presented us with the plaque.
Okay, and can you tell us what else you have there that you brought that you would like to share with us? Some of your memories dealing with Ebenezer, or just your memories of events?
Well, this is something that this is a book, and that I shall never part from it. I just almost keep it under lock and key. And this was a book written by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? And this was presented to me, and along with maybe 2 or 3 more Ebenezer members who had finished school. And this was the year that I had finished Morris Brown. And Dr. King autographed the book. And I shall forever cherish this. And it says, to Otistine White, we extend congratulations and best wishes for a future packed with meaningful fulfillment. And it has Dr. King's signature and Mrs. Coretta Scott's signature.
Wow. That's really special. That's a special treasure there.
It is.
Yes.
And there's, if you don't mind, I would like to read something from this book here that Dr. King had written. It says, this sense of somebodyness means the refusal to be ashamed of being Black. Our children must be taught to stand tall with their heads proudly lifted. We need not be duped into purchasing bleaching creams that promise to make us lighter. We need not process our hair to make it appear straight. Whether some men, Black and white, realize it or not, Black people are beautiful. Life's piano can only produce the melodies of brotherhood when it is recognized that the Black keys are as basic, necessary, and beautiful as the white keys.
Awesome. That's very precious.
This is very precious to me.
Yes.
It really is.
And what else do you have that you would like to share with us?
Well, I'm sure some of the Ebenezer members have also purchased this book by our former archivist, Mr. Benjamin C. Ridgway. And he did a wonderful job in compiling some of the history of Ebenezer. And he just really was a wonderful person. And also Miss Connie Smith, I think she is taking the mantle and also carrying out what Ben Ridgway left. And he also autographed this to Otistine, to God be the glory, Benjamin Ridgway. And this was February 2010, February the 6th, 2010.
Yes.
Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church. And I do recognize some of the members in the church. It's just a beautiful history of the church. And that is wonderful. And Miss Connie Smith is doing a wonderful job also in carrying out this legacy.
Yes, and Richard Decree, I believe, also is dealing with the archival process. They're working with that as well. So we have two great leaders on that project with Heritage. And Reverend Vaughn is carrying out the charge with that as well. Yeah, what else you brought for us?
My baptismal.
Okay. Here you go.
Oops, that's right. This is my certificate of baptismal, and it says to Otistine White, 98 Hilliard Street. And I'm sure some of you who grew up in 4th Ward knows where Hilliard Street is. And this was presented to me, my certificate of baptismal, on the 28th day of April 1954. 1954.
Wow.
And it was signed by Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. And at the time, Mrs. Laura Henderson was our, one of the leaders in the church. Mrs. Laura Henderson.
Oh, you have some very historic documents here. And what else do you have that you brought?
I think this was about the last one here, and this is this was a celebration of worship and observance of Holy Communion, homecoming, and the dedication of the Martin Luther King Sr. Community Resource Complex, and this was dedicated on November the 4th, 2012.
So who was the pastor during that time?
This was also Reverend Warnock.
Right. So you all just Ebenezer is just continuing to expand and grow. So you have
the dedication of the new building there that's named after Reverend King Sr.
Right.
Resource Center.
And I think you have some other things here as well. You have. Did you get married at the church as well?
Yes. Shall I show this?
Yeah.
All right. This was taken in heritage. This was the day that I got married, and this was July the 28th, 1968. And just wanted to show you the interior of our church.
The heritage.
Of heritage.
And who married you?
Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. married us, and you can only see the back of his head.
and you have your marriage certificate where he signed it as well?
I don't have that with me,
but
he did sign it. Yes,
right.
He did.
And what else do you have? We can go over and
right.
You can share.
This is the celebration of, oh no, this is old here. This is a souvenir program that was given to me long ago by one of the former members of Ebenezer. And this was celebrating the 60th anniversary of the church, along with the 15th anniversary of Pastor Martin Luther King Sr. And this was March the 10th, 1947.
Wow.
This was in 1947. And this is Reverend Martin Luther King. This is how he looked in 1947. A very nice, handsome picture of him. And just different things events that happened during those times. The pictures of the Sunday school, the Sunday school teachers. All of this is just so invaluable. The music department here. And I know some of you remember Mrs. Wilhelmina Scretchen. She was also our organist, and she was also the director of the A.D. Williams Choir. And there's Mr. Stallings. He's the director of the youth and junior choir. And of course, this is our beloved, this is Alberta King. She was our organist and director, and she was also the director of choir number 2 at Ebenezer.
So that's just full with history there.
Full of history.
Yes.
And remember, this was 1947.
1947. And you spoke of Black Wall Street. Were there advertisements from Black businesses in that as well?
I would like to. There were some patrons here, and this is one I just love. It was so funny. They had this little logo, and I remember my mother would go to this beauty shop, the Cornell Beauty Shop, and I think we have some members who related to Miss Corinne Green. I think Miss Dolores Hopper is related to Miss Corinne Green, if my memory serves me correctly. And Miss Green and Miss Nellie Perry were owners of this beauty shop. And the little logo they had is, and I think it's so hilarious, it says, "If your hair is not becoming to you, be coming to us." And so I thought that was cute. And there are businesses, if some of the people remember, East Side Barbershop and Pressing Club. I don't know if some of you remember what a pressing club is, but that was a dry cleaner. Pressing Club, dry cleaner. And it was located on Boulevard, Northeast Atlanta. Then there's another beauty shop, Miss Addie Gadsden, and it was located on Merritt's Avenue. Now, I know you said something about Auburn. Now here, Miss Bessie Colvin, operator, Quality Beauty Shop, and this was on Auburn Avenue. And of course, you have a lot of beauty shops on Auburn, and also funeral homes. There was, and of course, they're doing a lot of renovations, and the neighborhood is really changing. But we had undertaker shops, as most people say, where we had mortuaries, Cox Brothers, Hoggebrooks, and further on down on Bell Street, there was Hanley's Funeral Home. And there were banks and insurance companies and eating establishment. There was a building called the, here's a Henderson Realty Company, and that was on Auburn Avenue. We had law offices on Auburn, and this was the law offices of attorneys Thomas Henry, Eugene Moore, S.S. Robinson.
That's awesome.
Shoe shop on Auburn Avenue, Barnes Shoe Shop.
So Ebenezer just interconnected with a lot of community activities and businesses. Okay.
I want to say something about the Citizen Trust Company, and it was on Auburn. Of course, now Georgia State has bought this beautiful building that later on Citizen Trust had built, and now Georgia State owns it.
Okay.
It's on the corner. It's across the street from where we are.
Okay. And anything else that you have that you'd like to share?
I think this is about it. I think this is
Do you have the some of the programs or obituary of?
all right. This is the program of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., a service of celebration. And of course, this was a sad day. This was Thursday, November the 15th, 1984. And this was Dr. Martin Luther King Sr.'s
His homegoing service.
program. Yes.
Okay.
And it was a wonderful service. I attended. In fact, I was in the M.L. King choir at the time. And I remember that the choir could not sit in the choir stand, the ML King choir. The church choir sat in the choir stand, and then the ML King choir, as you go into the church, we sat on the right-hand side up front, on the right side. But this was a wonderful, it was a beautiful service. It really was. And there were so many tributes until we just cannot, I don't think, have a